Howdy folks, it's Generalkidd here. How's everyone doing today? So, for today's video, we're actually tackling a pretty interesting question on Halo 1, and that is, which team are the engineers actually on in Halo 1? Like, whose side are they on, like, by default? So, as you guys probably know by now, I've covered this a few times, actually, over the past couple of years, but Halo 1 does have cut engineers hidden in game files that you can pretty easily spawn out. Now, of course, officially in gameplay, engineers did not appear until Halo 3 ODST. And in that game, if you remember, they were at first they were allied with the brutes because they were forced to be, and you didn't really know, the rookie didn't really know they were friendly yet until the end. But so by default they were allied with the brutes. But what about Halo 1? Because like, if I were to spawn them by shooting them out of my plasma pistol, that's the easiest way to spawn engineers in Halo 1. But by doing that, if I shoot them out, you can see that they're actually friendly. And, in both classic and anniversary graphics, just by looking at them, you could tell. Now, keep in mind, you may be thinking, like, how can I tell just by looking at them? Well, in Halo 1, AIs, characters, whatever, if they're friendly, they don't actually show up as green on your reticle. Because you may be thinking in the newer Halo games, if you point your weapon at a friendly, they'll show up as green. But as you can see here, in Halo 1, that's not the case. Your reticle only changes colors if it's an enemy. It'll turn red for enemy, and it won't change at all for friendlies. So, if I let an enemy spawn an engineer instead, then that engineer changes to an enemy. Which you can see here, it's an enemy right there, and all the Marines will actually shoot at it in a second because it's an enemy, because it was spawned by that Jackal earlier. So if I spawn it, it's friendly. If an enemy spawns it, it's an enemy. So it's a little tricky to figure out actually what team it's on. I mean, I know what team it's on in the game files, but to actually show it to you guys in gameplay to prove it, I had to I replaced all the dead Marine bodies on the map with engineers, and then instead of spawning them as dead, I spawned them as alive. Because when I spawn bipeds or characters that way, they spawn as their default team. Just like in ODST, when I did a video about whose side the elites are on in ODST, like if they're friendly or not, I just basically spawned their dead bodies as alive instead of dead, and without any like specific team assigned to them, they just revert to their default team. So in this case, the default team of the engineers in Halo 1 is in fact the Covenant. They are by default allied with the Covenant instead of the UNSC or the Sentinels, which is actually pretty interesting, because I think according to Halo lore, like the old Halo lore from back then, it did mention engineers, and that engineers were supposed to be kind of like neutral, like, because they were Forerunner creations, so they kind of just do whatever they want, and they aren't actually allied with any factions lore wise. But gameplay-wise, in the game files, they actually are assigned to the Covenant team by default. Now, like I said, depending on how you spawn them, like if you shoot them out of your weapon, then because you're the one shooting them, it counts as your quote-unquote projectile, sort of, and that's why they're friendly if you shoot it. And if an enemy shoots them, that's the enemy's quote-unquote projectile, so that's why they're enemies. So, spawning them this way, it was the only way to figure out, or to actually see what team they're on. But yeah, like I said, you could tell like they're on a Covenant's team, because the Jackals, and elites, they won't even shoot at the engineer. If I move aside, sometimes they might hit them by accident, but they will never shoot at the engineers on their default team, because they're actually on the same team as the Covenant forces in Halo 1. So yeah, that's pretty interesting, and it doesn't actually match what's correct in lore. But again, it's a cut creature in Halo 1. It was never finished and never included in the final game, so it's not really official anymore. But it's just interesting that that's what the original team was, and it makes me wonder like what the original plan was for engineers in Halo 1. Like I think I read somewhere is that they were just supposed to be like floating around and minding their own business and stuff, almost like ambient life in the game. But that didn't actually happen, and maybe at some point the original plan was to have them be something like an ODST, but that was cut from the game, and Bungie didn't really tap into that original idea sort of until Halo 3 ODST again. But that's just my theory. But anyways, that answers the question of which team the engineers are on, which is the Covenant. Anyways, hopefully you guys did find this video to be interesting. If you did enjoy it, make sure to leave a like. Leave your thoughts in the comments. Anything else you want me to check out or look into, just let me know. But other than that, make sure to subscribe, and I will see you all next time. Bye, guys.